Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is an urgent question coming up on Kashmir, but just to say this, that from our side of the House we strongly support dialogue, rapid dialogue between India and Pakistan in order to reduce the conflict, reduce the tensions and deal with the root causes of it before more lives are lost. I also join the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, in wishing Eve a very happy retirement. She's been absolutely brilliant in your office, and over many years of people rushing in and out of your office making totally unreasonable demands, she's always sorted it out. So could you pass on to her the thanks of lots and lots of backbenchers over many, many years? Mr. Speaker, the Bank of England forecasts that growth for this year will be the slowest in over a decade. Does the Prime Minister blame her shambolic handling of Brexit or her failed austerity policies for this damaging failure?
Well, can I say to the right honourable gentleman, first I think he should have seen the report that actually showed that the expectation is that we will have higher growth in this country over the coming year than they will have in Germany. But he talks about the economy. Let's just say what we see in the economy under a Conservative government. More people in work than ever before. Unemployment at its lowest level since the 1970s. Borrowing this year at its lowest level for 17 years. And the largest monthly surplus on record. Conservatives delivering more jobs, healthier finances, an economy fit for the future.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know the Prime Minister is very busy, I understand that, but she possibly hasn't had a chance to look at the Bank of England forecasts, which suggest there's a 1 in 4 chance of the UK economy dipping into recession. Manufacturing is already in recession. Car manufacturing declined at the steepest rate for a decade, down 5% in the last quarter alone. Honda, Jaguar, Land Rover and Nissan have either announced cuts to jobs or investment in recent months. Does the Prime Minister blame her shambolic Brexit or her government's lack of industrial strategy for this very sad state of affairs?
Yes, thank you, right honourable gentleman. I've just explained to him what we see in positives of this under this government in relation to this economy and the consistent growth quarter by quarter that we have seen in our economy under this government. And what do we know would be worst thing for the economy in this country? It would be a run on the pound, capital flight and 1,000 billion of borrowing under a Labour government.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, as manufacturing industry declines, it's skilled, well-paid jobs that are lost. But the Prime Minister is right, there is something that's increasing, and that is the income of the top 5th richest people in this country, which went up by 4.7% last year, while incomes of the poorest fell by 1.6%. With the poorest people worse off, will the Prime Minister now commit to ending the benefit freeze, or does she believe that rising poverty is a price worth paying?
Well, perhaps it might help again to look at some of the facts. The top 1% are paying 28% of income tax. That's higher than at any time under a Labour government. Income inequality is lower than that we inherited from a Labour government. And the lowest earners saw their fastest pay rise in 20 years through the national minimum living wage. That's Conservatives building a fairer society and delivering for everyone.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Some of us cannot forget it was the Conservative Party that so opposed the principle of the national minimum wage from the very beginning. But, Mr. Speaker, the government could perhaps start tackling the scourge of low pay in their own departments. The Business and Justice departments pay some of their central London workers as little as £7.83 per hour. And they've been on strike again this week, hoping to get a London living wage. Could the Prime Minister intervene and make sure they do get the London living wage so they can continue doing their very valuable work for both of those departments? Low pay, Mr. Speaker, means many workers have to claim universal credit just to make ends meet. This month, the Work and Pensions Secretary admitted that universal credit is driving people to food banks. Isn't it time to stop the rollout and get it right? Or does she believe that rising poverty is a price worth paying?
No, yes. I'm not sure whether the right honourable gentleman was repeating his previous question, but can I just say to the right honourable gentleman, first of all, he talks about universal credit. In my what we have said with universal credit is that as we roll it out, we have made changes to it, as we have seen how it has been operating. In my first months as Prime Minister, we cut the taper rate so people could keep more of what they earn. Since then, we've increased allowances to 100% of a full monthly payment. We've scrapped the 7 waiting days. That means that people get their money sooner, and we've brought in a 2-week overlap for those people who are on housing benefit. The question is why, when we were making all those changes to universal credit to benefit the people who are getting universal credit, did the Labour Party oppose every single one of them?
Jeremy Corbyn!
Can I just give one example, Mr. Speaker, of what's happening? Take, for example, the food bank in Hastings, represented by the DWP Secretary. Its demand has gone up by 80% after universal credit was rolled out. And the Trussell Trust reports that a significant proportion of referrals are relating to benefit changes, delays or sanctions, a huge increase in food bank uses. Mr. Speaker, 4.1 million of our children are growing up in poverty. Last week, the Resolution Foundation said that UK child poverty was on course to hit record levels. Will the Prime Minister take action to prevent this? Will she start by ending the 2-child limit? Will she end the benefit cap? Will she restore the 1,000 Sure Start centres that have been lost under her government?
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, as we look at the welfare system, what we want to ensure is that we have a welfare system that is fair to those who need to use the welfare system, but is also fair to all those people, those hard-working taxpayers, whose taxes actually go to pay for the welfare system. He talks about child poverty. Absolute child poverty is at a record low, and we know that a child growing up in a home where all the adults work is around 5 times less likely to be in poverty than a home where nobody works. And under this government, the number of children in workless households is at a record low. So when he stands up, will he recognise that work is the best route out of poverty? And will he recognise that while we're talking of work, he should welcome the fact that we now have more people in work than ever before? 3.5 million more people than in 2010.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it clearly isn't working because so many people who are themselves working very hard, sometimes doing 2 or even 3 jobs, have to access food banks just to feed their children. She used to talk about the just about managing. Well, they're not managing anymore. Income inequality is up. In-work poverty, up. Child poverty, up. Pensioner poverty, up. Homelessness, up. Mr. Speaker, austerity is clearly not over. People on low incomes are getting poorer, while those at the top are getting richer. The economy is slowing, manufacturing is in recession, and this government's shambolic handling of Brexit.
The right honourable gentleman will not be shouted down. It isn't going to happen. The attempt is foolish. It demeans the House. Stop it. Grow up. Jeremy Corbyn.
Speaker, austerity is clearly not over. People on low income are getting poorer, while those at the top get richer. The economy is slowing, manufacturing is in recession, and this government's shambolic handling of Brexit is compounding years of damaging austerity. Their policies are driving people to food banks and poverty in the 5th richest economy on this planet. Are any of these burning injustices a priority for the Prime Minister?
Right honourable gentleman, manufacturing is not in recession. Can I say to the right honourable gentleman that it is not the case. It is not the case of what he says about the lowest earners. As I said earlier, if he'd listened to my answer, the lowest earners have seen the highest rise in their pay for 20 years as a result of the introduction of the national living wage. The national living wage introduced by a Conservative-led government. And if he's talking about actually helping people who are in work, let's talk about the fact that we've cut income tax to help people keep more of what they earn. We've frozen fuel duty, so we're helping people where the car is a necessity, not a luxury. Since 2010, those measures have saved working people £6,500. From the way the right honourable gentleman talks, you'd have thought that he would have supported them. But what did he do? No, he's voted against them over a dozen times. And that's the reality. It's working people who always pay the price of labour.